I had the craziest dream last night about a girl who was turned into a swan, but her prince falls for the wrong girl and she kills herself.
Black Swan's a psychological thriller set in the New York world of ballet, and we follow the story of Nina, Natalie Portman's character. It's about her quest for perfection. She starts to sort of slowly go into the psychosis of paranoia.
She's after me.
Nina doesn't quite know what's real and what's not real anymore, and things just sort of spiral out of control. The directing that Darren gave me was just to be bold and to push the limits and to not be shy. My history with Darren was basically started on Requiem for a Dream. Darren's aesthetic at that point, for me, wasn't too different than what Black Swan was in terms of likes to be bold, likes you to challenge yourself, likes you to be ambitious, likes you to look for opportunities for sound to actually push the story forward, sometimes super subconsciously, other times way overt. And that's what Black Swan is. Sometimes we're really quiet, we go right down to silence, and then other times we're like, boom, hit it. Big, you know, and almost too big, you know, on some levels, because he wants it to be, and then pull it back, you know, and that's the dynamics of what this movie was all about, and that's what kind of Darren is about. The movie starts off in the real world. We were very conscious of trying to make this regular day type movie that was just a little bit left of center. One of the first scenes, we see Nina has a little rash on her back. Yeah, it's, you know, in a regular movie, you wouldn't think anything of it. She has a rash on her back and the movie carries on and nothing happens. In this movie, that rash is actually the beginning of her, you know, metamorphosis or whatever you want to call it. And she also starts seeing her double, or what we would refer to as the double. Oh, there comes the double. The double walks by her, the double's in her mirror. So we had to come up with some sort of idea to tie that double in and signify and let the audience know something is up with this other Nina that you're seeing. We started playing around with breathing. We started playing around with actually production sounds. My effects editor, Wayne Lemmer, went through all the production dialogue tracks and we found little snippets of breathing and a little giggle and a little this or a little that we actually took and just manipulated into certain ways. And it's actually right at the beginning of the movie. The first thing you hear when the title comes up, other than the Tchaikovsky score, is this reverse breath that comes in and kind of giggles a little bit and then sort of dissipates. So subtle, you wouldn't even notice it, but the idea is it's setting up something down the line. Because of the short schedule, we didn't actually get to do a lot of recording as much as we wanted to. We did a lot of Foley-esque recording of bird flapping wings, and we also did a lot of flesh sort of things. We did a lot of stuff with tree bark. I had a lot of dirt together with little ground up rocks and stuff, and twisting and manipulating those sort of things. And then we did some recordings of New York crowds and things like that. We actually rented a ballet studio for a day, and Cole Anderson, a good friend of mine in New York, he recorded professional ballerinas doing the dance steps to basically get the realism.
In 4 years, every time you dance, I see you obsessed getting each and every move perfectly right, but I never see you lose yourself. Ever.
It's a scene in the movie between Vincent Cassel and Natalie Portman, and there's a lot of tension between the two of them, and he just kisses her, starts to kiss her, and she's sort of taken aback, but then she sort of gets into it a little bit. The whole idea was, who in Nina's psyche is doing that? Is it Nina, who's supposed to be the frail girl, the demure ballerina, or is it the double that's trying to get out of her? So the idea was when Vincent comes in and kisses her, we sort of like started doing this sort of low-end throbby thing, and then this sort of like insecty type sound that sort of builds, and then we paid it off with her biting him, and you hear the breathing giggle thing that we established. So the whole idea is like, well, who was that actually came out of Nina?
Ah! You bit me? I can't believe you bit me.
I'm sorry.
Darren's a big fan of panning anything, panning sound effects, panning dialogue, panning music. The camera is basically right on Natalie all the time in the dance sequences, and she's flowing around and she goes to the left and she goes to the right, and the camera's right there along with her. So the ideas during the final mix came up, how do we do that with the sound? Dominic Tavella spent a lot of time panning the music, essentially taking the whole orchestra and everybody goes to the left and then everybody goes to the right. We were able to do it so much with this movie that it actually allowed everything to sort of live in the surround world. It wasn't just one or two things where you felt something go to the left or the right or to the back or what have you. We did it all the time.
time to go dance.
The club scene is basically the one night that she gets to go out and she's sort of like loosening up a little bit at the request of Mila Kunis's character, Lily. The cool thing about the whole scene was the Chemical Brothers actually did that piece that actually has elements of Swan Lake in it. And then all these kind of crazy visuals started coming in where you actually see shots of a raven, shots of the Black Swan, shots of her mom, and all this kind of stuff. So we were like, how do you incorporate some interesting sounds and sound designs with a slam and club track? We got Jill to record a lot of loop group people screaming Nina, Nina, Ninas, and mommies, and all these different types of words and things that sort of tied into the dialogue of the movie. And we swirled them around the room in the center section when Nina was on her own. And then as Lily comes up, music jams back in, and we're off and running. The Chemical Brothers song starts to build up. What I started to do was actually all the crowd that you hear in there, I actually started to do these stutter edits, or I refer to them as these sort of stutter edits. And then in the mix, it was just like drove all that stuff all the way through and all the way around us, so it actually just pushed us right into the next scene. It just was one of those synergistic things where as soon as I heard that Chemical Brothers song, and you know, the images of these sort of morphing and stuff, I was like, awesome, I know what we can do, totally. There was a fun factor in this movie, and I think it's because of the horror elements. I think it's because, you know, we could have a little bit of fun with sort of the melodramatic side of things, and not being afraid to try things and maybe experiment and fail. But out of those routes become the really kind of interesting stuff and the stuff where you kind of push yourself. And why someone like Darren's an important guy to sort of work with for me is because he allows you those sort of like things. You know, his films just speak to sound. In my mind, his films just give you those sort of things. It's palpable. For me, when I'm trying to hire somebody or trying to find a new talent or somebody young and hungry, Pro Tools and the computer side of things and stuff like that, sort of the least of my sort of worries. I actually want them to come to the table with some sort of aesthetic, some sort of point of view, some sort of ideas and opinions. So to be successful, I think you can get there from any number of ways. But I think hard work is probably the biggest one, you know, and ambition and hard work and desire. If you really want to do it, you got to dig in and do it. No one's gonna like hand it to you.